Mr. Patrick Roberts earned a bachelor's degree from Johns Hopkins University and his law degree from Duke University. Mr. Roberts has enjoyed working within the court system for more than 12 years, serving as assistant district attorney in 3 North Carolina counties and as a special prosecutor for domestic violent crimes, juvenile court matters, and numerous felony matters. After spending several years as a prosecutor, Mr. Roberts decided to start his own law firm in 2007. He now practices as a criminal defense attorney, working to solve problems for his clients and their families, fixing challenging situations under difficult circumstances. Mr. Roberts has benefited from a reputation of hard work and integrity, which has made a difference for thousands of clients throughout North Carolina. His job performance directly affects people's lives, and he takes pride in that. Success in criminal defense means changing lives by what he does on a daily basis. He is passionate about his work and wouldn't trade it for anything else. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Patrick Roberts.
Good morning. Last year in July, I defended a young man who was charged with first-degree murder. And I can tell you that I've never been more nervous a day in my life than standing here in front of you today. So much so, I speak for a living, and after hearing these young men speak, I'm kind of nervous. Gotta keep the standard high. So I want to talk to you graduates who some of you I got a chance to meet a couple of months back when I spoke initially. You know, it inspires me to no end to see the 9 of you sitting here. I'm looking at the schools you plan on attending, and I find it frankly remarkable. You inspire me, and I hope I can inspire you as well. And frankly, I'm also impressed because you all wear ties pretty much every day, and when I was your age, the only person who could get me to do that was my mom, and that was only on Easter. So here's the thing. Your high school experiences will be much like my college experience. When I went to Johns Hopkins, I was from the inner city, went to public school. I had a single parent. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We spent about, I think my mom spent maybe $1,000 out of her pocket every year to send me to Johns Hopkins, okay? All of the rest of it was either scholarship, grants, or student loans. Your experience may be very similar to my experience in that the kids there may have a lot more than you. When I went to Hopkins, I felt like I thought I was okay, but then I saw these kids with cars and credit cards and nice clothes and parents sending them money every week. And I realized I was in trouble because they had been to some of the best private schools in the country, as many of you will be now. And I realized I was outclassed. And it terrified me, like nothing I'd ever experienced before. Because I realized that those kids had thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of education backing them. And I had public school and free lunch. They were better prepared than I could ever be. They knew it, and frankly, I knew it too. And my biggest fear was that I was going to end up going back to my neighborhood in East New York, Brooklyn, as a failure, which is worse than staying there in the first place. And let me tell you about my neighborhood. Some of you remember this from when I spoke to you guys the last time. My neighborhood in the 90s and in the early 80s was one of the most violent neighborhoods in New York. The home next door to us was a crack house. The home next to that was a crack house. When I walked out of my door, directly across the street, there were 7 houses, all abandoned, all crack houses. For a decade. They finally fixed it in the late 90s, right before I went to high school. I saw shootouts. I had friends who went to prison. I had family who went to prison. I've seen people high on crack. I've seen people in the streets shooting drugs into their veins. Not hiding, just shooting drugs into their veins. That was my reality. My elementary school was one of the worst, if not the worst, elementary school in the entire city of New York, and there are several hundred of them. So I didn't really think that I had a chance. I didn't really know what a chance looked like or what it meant to have a chance in the first place. I had an opportunity to go to a gifted and talented junior high school to test into them like many of you did for your high schools, but I didn't take it seriously and I nearly failed out. In fact, I only got into high school because my sister had done well in the school that we went to, and she talked to someone and they said, okay, well, he's your brother, we'll let him in. It's a true story. Now, I did okay in high school. Well enough to get into Johns Hopkins, which is a very good private institution, and I wanted to study engineering, but we had never had a college graduate in our family. My sister would be the first, I would be the second. And I really didn't see myself being able to graduate and compete with these kids once I got on campus and saw how much further ahead they were. So how could I compete with that? How can you compete with that? I'll tell you how. I knew I had nothing to fall back on except my belief in myself. So here's what I'm going to offer you. It's what I offered myself 20 years ago. Been a while. We're in a church, so it's only appropriate that I talk about the Bible and the Lord and how it fits and how He fits into your life. The book of Proverbs said that the tongue, your tongue, has the power of life and death. Life and death. In fact, the Bible says that when God created the world, He spoke. He didn't cut, He didn't bend, He didn't turn, He didn't do anything physical, He spoke. It also says that we have in ourselves, we are created in His image, which means that we have in us the ability to speak the world that we want to have into existence. We have that creative power in our own voices, and I'm always impressed when I see you guys stand up and lock arms and start reciting your DNS man creed, because it's an affirmation. Take that to heart, because those words you're speaking are creating your reality. You may not realize it, but that's exactly what they're doing. So for the 9 of you and for the students who are here, I want you to repeat after me. I want you to practice with me. Just stand up and say this. If y'all wouldn't mind standing up for me, please. Repeat after me. My words create my reality. Thank you. You may have a seat. I decided in college that I was good enough. I had to be good enough. I started talking to myself about the things that I wanted. I set goals and I started reminding myself every day I had what it took to be there, I had what it took to graduate, and I had what it took to achieve those goals. I never stopped reminding myself that I had what it took. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to consider the fact that if I can graduate from Johns Hopkins, from Duke Law School, with public school education, you're already ahead of me because you have the opportunity to go to a great school that someone is assisting you with. You have the world in front of you. You have the world inside of you to create, whatever that world may happen to be. When you hit that difficult place in college, in high school, in life, that you eventually will hit, remember one thing: you already have what it takes. Remind yourself every day that you have what it takes. Set your goals, speak your goals out loud, write them down, tell them to friends, tell them to family, but always remember you have what it takes. Now, after years of reflecting on the challenges I've faced in life, I realized that I was better prepared for college than I really thought initially. So when you come from difficult circumstances and you have little to fall back on, you're a lot tougher than you realize. I don't know what you all have been through, but I guarantee you face challenges. Am I right? Challenges? Any graduates face a challenge in their life? Yeah? All of you? Oh, good. Okay. All right. All right. I'm glad. I just want to make sure. The thing is, Roberto, if you've been through a challenge that was difficult, you can't fall any further than where you've already been. You understand that? You can never go below where you've already been. None of you can. None of you can. So, there's only one place for you to go, right? What direction is that? Up. You've been down at the bottom. You know what that's like. You're tough enough to get up. In fact, that challenge, those issues have made you stronger than everyone that you're going to face and compete with. Do you believe that? You are actually going to be better prepared for life than anyone that you come into contact with because you've faced those challenges already and overcome them. Remember that. Remind yourself of that. And if you ever wonder, how can I get all of these things in order and figure out exactly where I'm going to go, I'm going to give you something that I'd like you to take with you. It's a 4-letter action phrase that I like to use. It's called plan. Now, everybody knows what plan means, but it's not that plan. I'm going to give you something. First, it's P-L-A-N. The first P is prepare. Okay? You have a goal to get somewhere. The first thing you have to do is figure out what you want to achieve. Now, I'm encouraging all 9 of you, and those of you who are in the student audience, to set high and lofty goals. Not just college, Harvard. Not just a job, a medical degree. Set those goals. Exceed those goals. Plan to succeed by figuring out exactly what you need to do to get there, who you need to talk to get there, who has already gotten there. If you want to be a lawyer, come talk to me. I'll show you. Find those people that are where you want to be, and you chase them down, and you get the information that you need. That's preparing. You want to think long term. That is, you want to think about the goals that you have, that you've set, and how you're going to get there. And more importantly, you want to let those goals inform you every day as you make decisions. Your friends want to go out and hang out. You need to study. Which one is going to advance your goal? Ask that question for every area of your life. Act. Big, small actions. Sometimes it's just the affirmation, reminding yourself you're good enough. Finding a mentor. Talking to people who've been where you want to be. Googling your goal. Setting high standards for yourself. Find someone that's where you are or where you want to be. Figure out how they got there, and then you can follow their path. And lastly, and it's interesting that this is part of your DNS creed, because I didn't actually realize that when I wrote this speech. The N stands for never give up. That sounds familiar, right? You guys say that all the time, never give up. Why is that important? Because life is challenging. I used to think once I graduated from college, it would be all good. Get a car, get a house, and we'd be fine. It doesn't work that way. When you graduate from college, there's another obstacle. And after you finish that obstacle, there's another obstacle. It's not easy, but it's worth it. So I'm going to speak for you today, and I'm going to guarantee that all 9 of you are going to graduate from high school. That's not even a question. I'm going to speak and guarantee that all 9 of you are going to college. That's not a question. The direction after you graduate from college, that's the question. You set that path. And when you've gotten there, what I'd like you to do is reach back to your community and go back and tell them about your success, about your plan and how you executed. Jesus told us to go and make disciples of all the world. Go back to your communities and make disciples of your success. Congratulations, graduates, and I wish you all the best.